establishing yourself as an expert. Okay, so I've been mentioning this a lot, and of course now you've joined the forum. So how do you go from being a newbie, someone that just joined and is wet behind the ears, to someone that is seen as an expert that somebody trusts? Because believe me, this is the best situation to be in if you want to be promoting your product successfully. Becoming an expert, involves answering niche-specific questions whenever possible. Say for example that you join a dog training forum and your book is more specifically about dog behavior. I would keep a close watch on the forum for whenever people ask questions, because it's going to give you a golden opportunity to go out there and answer the questions. Say somebody says, help, I can't get my dog to stop barking at night. Go in there and say, hey, you know what, this is what I did, and it got my dog to, it significantly helped with the problem. And what's going to happen is people will see that and say, wow, you know what, this dog trainer really does know their stuff. Oh, hey, look, they also have a book. And, if they grow to trust you and find that you're helpful, then, they're going to look at what you have to offer as well. You also want to post frequently and consistently. I'm more a fan of doing things over time than going in and doing 50 posts today and none for the next 2 weeks, because people like to see that you're going to be more actively on an ongoing basis. Plus, it's going to give you a chance to introduce. Maybe someone will see you the first time and they'll think, okay, but then the third time they'll think, wow, you know what? That's 3 questions now that I saw answered by this guy, and he knows what he's talking about. I'm going to check his product out. You also want to publish original threads offering helpful advice. It's one thing to kind of jump in and answer people's questions, but another good thing to practice is to create content and then just post it. And also in the thread, ask people questions so they will post onto you as well. Because what will happen then is, if you have a thread that has a lot of back and forth, it's going to provide even more exposure to what you're talking about. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. You're engaging the community and the back and forth, and the more that your threads get bumped up to the top, because what happens is, you post a thread. Let's just go ahead and look here. And many of you, I'm sure already know how this works, but just humor me for a second here. We're in the dog forum, and let's say that you post a question, and then somebody else posts a question. Well, theirs gets placed over top yours. Your question gets slowly put down here, but every time someone else responds to your question, it gets put back up to the top, which is a lot more exposure for you. So, somebody responds to you, you respond back to them, and back and forth. And, the more times that your thread gets bumped up here to the top, the more exposure it's going to get. And now just imagine that, there's 5 threads on this first page that are getting a lot of activity, and you've contributed to all of them. That's a lot of exposure for you. You want to establish relationships with other high posters. Go in there, and the more that you learn about the forum, you'll begin to see that there are some people on there that are king of the hill. They're highly regarded, and you go in there, and they see you engaged in conversations and threads that they're in as well. They're going to begin to take note of you, and this will kind of get you in, with people that are very involved. And believe me, that's a good place to be, because then you can start. You can email them, send them a private message. Let me show you an example of that. Because of course, one thing is that people typically don't put their email addresses in here, but you can private message people. So let's say, for example, that this person here is someone that you respect, and you say, hey, listen, I'm going to introduce myself to them. Let's go ahead and click on this, and you can send them a private message. And what will happen is they'll get that message through the forum. And what you can do is you start to find people that you think are in good positions on the forum, that are dedicated members. You can just introduce yourself and say, hey, listen, I saw that you talked about such and such in the thread. I also blah blah blah. And introducing yourself in that way will create a relationship with them. You can continue through this, and you never know where these types of relationships will lead. But the point is to go out there, and you're not just some nameless person. You're someone that's making an effort to interact with the people. These are people that can help you with your presence. So keep that in mind. These all things go into becoming an expert.